everybody, Yankee here. I want to come at you today with some good news that you've probably already heard. It's the fact that the Supreme Court seems to be poised to actually move on the challenges to the assault weapons ban and magazine bans in this country. After Bruin, a lot of states said, oh, you tell us we can't violate the Constitution? Well, watch us, hold my beer, basically. And they passed a lot of these assault weapons bans, mag limits, etc. And they've been working their way through the court systems, getting to the Supreme Court over the last, years. And we've been waiting for this day to finally come, and it seems like it has. Now, I've seen a lot of people talking about it online, and most people are representing it just fine, but there's some people that tend to be either celebrating too soon, like we already won something, or even more people acted like, this is nothing, this is just theater, this is what they do every time, blah, blah, blah. And neither of those things are anything we should be doing, really, because neither of them actually make sense. So I want to take a little time today and talk about what's actually happening, when it's going to happen, what we can expect to see, and what I think is going to actually be the most likely outcome. Now, I know most of you got it figured out. You're doing fine because most of you are smarter than me. But there's some of you booger eaters out there that aren't much smarter than me that haven't figured it out yet. So, like I said, I want to go over it today. First off, what's happening? Well, there's 5 lawsuits that have actually been put on the conference docket for the Supreme Court. Now, these are mostly X versus Raul, Y versus Raul, blah versus Raul. They're all dealing with pretty much the same thing. So a lot of them are repeats of cases. So what you're probably going to see first off is you're going to see some of them tossed. And that's a lot of people are going to be like, see, I told you so. Well, no, this is going to be the way it is. What they're going to do is they're going to consolidate them. Because there's no point in hearing 5 separate cases that all deal with the same thing. There's just a different plaintiff challenging the same law. One ruling is enough. So they're probably going to consolidate some of these because all 5 of them deal basically with Illinois and Maryland and with mag bans and assault weapons bans. So they're going to consolidate them probably into one case, maybe 2. They might just choose to deal with one state or they might do one case for both states, but you're probably only going to see 2 cases at most put on the docket. So that's something you're going to be expecting. So don't be like, oh my God, they threw this one out or they threw that one out or they cut all that. That's normal. That would make sense and we expect that. There's no reason for them to say, oh yeah, and also it's illegal to do the exact same thing in another state when they rule that it's unconstitutional in one state. Once they rule it unconstitutional in one state, that's nationwide. They're the Supreme Court of the United States. So if they rule an assault weapons ban saying you cannot ban these common use rifles, blah, 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 or rifles with these features just because they have them, if they rule that in one state, that also takes care of our ban here in Washington too. Which is one of the reasons why Washington hasn't really been moving more on this case. People say, why aren't you all having a case in front of the Supreme Court or working towards the Supreme Court or blah, blah, blah? Well, because there's really no need to and it doesn't make sense. Because there's already cases that are years ahead of us that'll get there first. And if they win, well, that'll be a win for us too. If they lose, well, that would make our case moot. So no point in it really. A lot of people get upset about that. They're like, why isn't my state doing something? Well, sometimes there's no point. Right now, everybody's waiting on things from like Illinois and Maryland and New York to get decided that will also decide their cases. So they're waiting. And right now, like I said, it seems like the Supreme Court is getting ready to do that. They've been real reluctant all this time to rule early or to step in early. And a lot of people have taken that as a defeat. Like, oh, they decided not to issue a stay, or oh, they decided not to do this, or blah, blah, blah. Well, what they were doing is they were basically staying out of it until it was time for them to be in it. They were not jumping into it early. They weren't wanting to stir the pot any more than they had to. But now that these cases are set for conference on May 16th, 2 weeks from today, all it takes is 4 judges. Once it goes into conference, 4 judges have to want to hear the case on the merits of the case. And I think we got 4 judges that will want to. I don't know about Amy Coney Barrett or Kavanaugh, but I think there's 4 others that will. So I think that this will be heard. It will be said, yes, we do want to hear this, and then it will be consolidated, and then we'll have an actual court date that will decide the constitutionality of assault weapons bans and mag limit bans. And I think that's very good news. So people that are panicking and saying, they always do this and blah, blah, blah. No, it's never gotten to this point. Everything up till this point has been procedural stuff. This is actually them deciding if these cases have merit and if they're going to hear them. And I can't see any way that they won't. Because here's the thing, they kind of painted themselves into a corner with Bruin. When they made Bruin law of the land and these other states went, screw that, we'll show you what we can do. They kind of put themselves in a situation where they have to either stand up and say, yes, our decisions mean something. And no, you can't just go around violating them in a different way by wording something slightly differently. Because our decisions are final and they have teeth. Either that or they have to say, we're just political pawns and the Supreme Court has no credibility whatsoever, and we're just going to sit back and ignore our own rulings in Bruin, which I don't see happening. They're quite a ways away from just saying, yes, we're political pawns and we control the country. I mean, I think that's a good 20 years away. So I think that they're going to have to hear them, and I do think that they will rule in a line with Bruin. And that will affect the entire country. The entire country will be free of assault weapons bans in the form they are now. Now, does that mean we will have won the fight forever for gun rights? No. There's still all kinds of things they're going to try. They're going to pass laws that they know are unconstitutional. And we're going to go through this all over again with different things. It'll be a lot harder for them, though, to do assault weapons bans and magazine limits. If the Supreme Court says you can't ban guns that are in common use just because they have certain features or because they look like a military rifle or whatever, then that will really tie their hands. In fact, the Bloomberg administration or organization, I call them administration because they actually do administer the law because they basically control legislatures like the one here in Washington. And he's their leader, so I consider it a Bloomberg administration, not just an organization. But they've already been saying inside their circles that, hey, we're going to lose these things. We're going to lose assault weapons bans. We're going to lose magazine limits. We've got to start coming up with different criteria. And that's why they started coming up with these laws like you saw in Washington where we're just going to put financial burdens on dealerships till they go out of business. We're going to put financial burdens on manufacturers till they go out of business. We're going to try to sue manufacturers, all this stuff. That's because they know they're probably going to lose this. And I agree with them. I think they're going to lose this. So mark your calendars for May 16th. That's when you're going to really need to pay attention to what goes on at the Supreme Court. And I think you're going to see a consolidated case make it onto the docket. That's going to be heard. And I do believe that eventually a majority will rule along with Bruin. Now, I think some of the liberal justices will find a way to ignore Bruin, even though it's law. They'll say, well, it's law I don't agree with, so I'm not going to follow it. Because the justices are very prone to doing that. But I still think we'll get a majority, and I think Bloomberg is right. They are going to lose assault weapons bans and mag limit bans in this country. But that doesn't mean they'll stop fighting. They'll just move on to something else. They've already started doing other things. Like I said, they've been putting legislation forward in Washington and other states, and just don't think, what's happening in Washington won't hurt me. It hurts everybody everywhere, because if it succeeds here, it goes other places. So even Texas, we've even seen some of the stuff from Oregon and Washington make its way into Texas. They had to fight that back. So don't think you're immune from it. So like I said, there is reason to celebrate here. May 16th, they're going to be setting a court date for this stuff. I do believe they will. Like I said, they'll consolidate it, but it'll happen. And I do believe, because Bruin is the law of the land, the majority will side with the Constitution. And assault weapons bans and magazine limit bans will be a thing of the past. We won't have to deal with those anymore, at least not for now, until the court makeup changes. And all we'll worry about now is the other bullshit that comes from the Bloomberg administration and all the crap that they're putting on the retailers and the manufacturers right now. That will be our next big fight. But for now, I think we're on the cusp of winning our current big fight.